He overheard me tell my friend I settled for him. Then I found out he read my messages too. Looking back, I should have been more careful with my words, but honestly, who hasn't vented to their friends about their relationship? I'm Natasha, 29, and I never expected my casual girl talk would blow up my entire life. Kane and I met through a mutual friend who kept insisting he was such a great guy and that I had to give him a chance. After my disaster relationship with Ryan, total charmer, completely unreliable, I figured maybe it was time to try dating someone different. Kane wasn't my usual type at all. He wasn't the life of the party or the guy everyone notices when he walks in, but he had a stable job, his own place, and actually texted back when he said he would. Our first date was nice. Not fireworks, not butterflies, just comfortable. He listened when I talked and remembered details about my job. When he asked for a second date, I thought, why not? Dating the bad boys clearly wasn't working out for me. Fast forward 2 years, and we're living together. He's dependable, kind, pays his half of the bills on time. All the things my mom always said I should look for, and I genuinely grew to care about him. Love him, even. Just not in that all-consuming, passionate way I always imagined. Last month, Jess came over while Kane was supposedly working late. We opened wine and started catching up, and the conversation turned to relationships. "So how are things with Kane?" she asked, pouring her second glass. "They're good," I said automatically. "But Jess has known me forever." "But," she prompted. I sighed. "I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if I'm missing out on something more exciting. Kane's great on paper, he's stable, reliable, all that, but sometimes I feel like I settled because I was tired of the drama." "You were pretty clear about that from the beginning," she said. "You said you were choosing the safe option for once." "I know, and it made sense. It's just, sometimes I see couples who seem so passionate about each other, and I wonder if I'm ever going to feel that way about Kane." I took another sip of wine. The thing is, he's still not really my type physically. Sometimes I see guys who are more my usual type, and I can't help but think about what could have been. "But you love him, right?" Jess asked. "I do," I said, and I meant it. "It's just different than what I expected. In the beginning, it was about feeling safe and supported. Now I do care about him deeply. It's just not that crazy, can't eat, can't sleep kind of love." What I didn't know was that Kane had come home early. He must have heard everything because he started acting weird the next day. Distant. Quiet. When I asked what was wrong, he'd just say nothing in that way that obviously meant something. For a week, things were tense. He'd come home, barely talk during dinner, then disappear into his home office for hours. I tried asking what was bothering him, but he kept shutting me out. Meanwhile, I was texting Jess about his weird behavior, venting more of my frustrations. Then came that Friday night. I came home from work to find Kane sitting at the kitchen table, looking like he hadn't slept in days. "We need to talk," Kane said, his voice unnervingly calm. I dropped my purse on the counter and cautiously sat across from him. "What's going on? You've been acting weird all week." He looked straight at me. "I heard you. Last week, with Jess. I came home early and heard everything you said." My body went cold. My mind raced through everything I'd told Jess that night. "Kane, I don't." He held up his hand. "I've had a week to think about this. I heard how you settled for me because I was the safe choice. How I'm not really your type, how you're missing that passionate love." I fumbled for words. "You weren't supposed to hear that. It was just girl talk, you know? Sometimes we say things we don't mean when we're venting." "Do you actually believe that?" His voice was razor sharp, because it didn't sound like venting. It sounded pretty thought out. "It's not like that," I insisted, panic rising. "Yes, when we first started dating, maybe I was choosing someone different than my usual type." "Is that so wrong? My usual type treated me like garbage." "So I should be grateful you settled? That I was your consolation prize? That's not fair," I said, getting defensive. "In the beginning, yes, it was about feeling safe and supported, but I grew to love you. I do love you." Kane laughed without humor. "You love what I provide, stability, security, but you don't love me." "That's not true." I was getting angry now. "You have no right to judge me based on one conversation you eavesdropped on." "It wasn't just that conversation, Natasha." His voice dropped. "There's more, and it's worse." My heart dropped. "What are you talking about?" Your messages, he said flatly. I read your text messages to Jess. A wave of outrage washed over me. You did what? How dare you? That's a complete invasion of my privacy. Invasion of privacy? Kane's laugh was bitter. That's your concern right now. Yes, it's my concern. Those are my private conversations. How did you even get into my phone? You're extremely careless with your password, he said. You hit remember password on everything. When you type it, it shows up first. If someone happens to be looking at the screen, it's pretty obvious. I felt violated. So you've been spying on me? I never thought I'd use it, he said. Not until this week, when I needed to know if what I overheard was a one-time thing or if that's how you really feel. And what exactly did you see that was so terrible? Let's see, Kane said, eerily calm. There was the part where you told Jess I'm not exactly setting your world on fire. Or the messages about how you still check out your ex's social media because he was the one that got away. Oh, and my personal favorite, how you're still attracted to those types of guys, but you're older now and know better. Each word felt like a punch. Those were things I'd said in what I thought was a private conversation. Those messages were taken completely out of context, I tried. Jess and I joke around, we say outrageous things. It doesn't mean anything. It means everything, Natasha. Kane's voice rose for the first time. Do you know what it feels like to read that the woman you love is still attracted to those types of guys? That she's just older now and knows better? That I'm the sensible choice, not the one you actually want? I switched tactics. What about you going through my private messages? That's a huge violation of trust. Kane looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Are you serious right now? You're the one who's been lying about your feelings for our entire relationship. I haven't been lying. I do care about you. Caring isn't enough, he said quietly. Not when I love you completely, and you're still wishing for someone else. I felt tears threatening. Kane, please, we can work through this. Everyone says stupid things to their friends sometimes. Then how do you truly feel, Natasha? Because from where I'm standing, it seems pretty clear. You settled for me. I'm not your type. You're still attracted to those other guys. What part am I misunderstanding? I struggled to find the words. It's complicated. Yes, when we started dating, you weren't my usual type. But that was a good thing. My type was terrible for me. So I should be grateful you lowered your standards? His words were like ice. That's not what I meant, I said, frustrated. How could I explain that I did care about him, but also sometimes wondered about what could have been? Kane shook his head. I think we have very different ideas about what a relationship should be. We're not, he said firmly. Not anymore. The trust is broken for both of us. I went through your messages. You settled for me. I think this is where we go our separate ways. You're breaking up with me? Over some stupid texts? No, Kane said, his voice steady. I'm breaking up with you because you don't love me the way I love you, and I deserve better than being someone's safe choice. The finality in his voice sent panic coursing through me. This couldn't be happening. You can't be serious, I said, my voice rising. You're throwing away our entire relationship over one overheard conversation and some venting texts? It's not just that, Kane sighed. This just confirmed what I think I've known for a while. You've never looked at me the way you look at other guys. I was convenient, reliable, Kane. The guy you settled for. That's not fair, I protested, tears spilling. You're making this decision without even giving me a chance to explain. What's there to explain? He asked quietly. Your own words were pretty clear. I paced the kitchen, desperate. People say things they don't mean all the time. Just because I occasionally feel nostalgic doesn't mean I don't value what we have. I never wonder, Kane said simply. Not once have I looked at another woman and thought I was missing out. His words stung. I felt cornered, defensive. Well, good for you for being so perfect. Some of us are human and have complicated feelings. Kane just shook his head. It's not about being perfect. It's about being with someone who truly wants you. I think it's best if you stay with one of your friends for a while, Kane said. I'll move your stuff to the spare bedroom for now. When you find a new place, I'll help you move. You're kicking me out? I whispered, shocked. Kane, this is my home too. I know, he said, but I'm on the lease, and I pay 60% of the rent. It makes more sense for me to stay. The reality was crashing down on me. This was really happening. Please don't do this, I begged. I love you, Kane. I do. Maybe not in the way you want, but I do love you. That's the problem, he said gently. I need more than that. I cried harder, and for a moment, Kane's resolve seemed to waver. He looked like he wanted to comfort me, but he stayed where he was. I'll call Jess, I said finally, wiping at my tears. I'm sure I can stay with her for a few days. I walked to the door, waiting for him to stop me. He didn't. As I stepped into the hallway, I looked back one last time. Kane. Goodbye, Natasha, he said softly, and closed the door. I barely remember the drive to Jess's apartment. My mind was a blur of panic and disbelief. This couldn't be happening. Not over some stupid comments that everyone makes. When I got to Jess's place, she was waiting for me with wine and sympathy. I collapsed on her couch and told her everything between sobs. He heard us talking? She gasped. And he read your texts? Jess winced. That's not great. Some of those texts were pretty brutal. Thanks for the support, I snapped, then immediately felt bad. Sorry, it's not your fault. I mean, if Ryan had heard you saying the stuff you say about Kane, wouldn't you have expected him to be upset too? I glared at her. Whose side are you on? Yours, obviously, she said quickly. I'm just saying, I get why he's hurt. But to end a 2-year relationship over some venting? Everyone vents to their friends. Jess looked uncomfortable. Well, you've been saying this stuff for a while, Tash, and it's been getting more frequent lately. Her words hit me harder than I expected. Was she right? After a week at Jess's, I started apartment hunting. I couldn't afford much on my own, definitely not in our neighborhood. The reality of starting over was terrifying. I'd gotten used to our comfortable life together, to sharing expenses, to Kane's stability balancing my more chaotic tendencies. I tried talking to some of our mutual friends, hoping they might be able to reason with Kane. To my shock, they were all awkwardly distant. Lisa, who I thought was firmly in my corner, admitted that Kane had told her some of what happened. He's really hurt, Natasha, she said uncomfortably. And honestly, some of the things he said you wrote about him were pretty harsh. He's sharing my private messages with our friends now? I was furious. He didn't show us the actual texts, Lisa clarified quickly. He just told us the gist of what happened. I felt betrayed all over again. Now all our friends were judging me based on Kane's version of events. 2 weeks after moving out, I went back to the apartment to pack more of my things. Kane had said he'd be out for the afternoon to give me space. Everything looked the same. Yet nothing was. I moved through the rooms that had been ours, gathering my belongings, trying not to notice how Kane had already removed my photos from the walls. When I reached our bedroom, his bedroom now, I opened the nightstand drawer and found a small velvet box. Inside was an engagement ring, with a receipt dated just 3 weeks ago. He had been planning to propose. Right around the time he overheard me with Jess, I sat heavily on the bed. Kane hadn't just been my safe choice, my stable option. He had loved me completely, enough to want to spend his life with me, and I had thrown it away with careless words. When Kane returned early, I told him I'd found the ring. You were going to propose, I said, my voice breaking. I was, he acknowledged. That night I came home early and heard you talking to Jess. I was coming home to plan how I was going to do it. The cruelty of the timing felt like a physical blow. The problem isn't that I heard you, Kane continued. The problem is that you felt that way at all. Would you have said yes? He asked, his gaze intense. If you knew I wasn't what you really wanted, would you have said yes anyway? My hesitation was answer enough. That's why we can't fix this, he said gently. Because even now, you're not sure. 3 months later, I was settled into my new apartment, much smaller, in a neighborhood far from our old one. I'd thrown myself into work, trying to fill the Kane-shaped hole in my life. Dating apps sat unused on my phone. The thought of starting over with someone new was exhausting. I hadn't seen Kane since that last day at the apartment. Our friend group had awkwardly divided, with most choosing his side. Can't blame them, honestly. He was always the more likable one of us. Maybe this is a chance for growth, Jess suggested over brunch one Saturday. To figure out what you really want. What I want is my life back, I muttered. I had a great setup with Kane. Jess frowned. See, that's part of the problem. You're listing all these practical things, not anything about Kane himself. That's not fair, I protested. I miss him too. The way he made me laugh, how he always knew when I needed space, the little notes he'd leave in my lunch. Then why were you always complaining about him? Always comparing him to your exes? I had no good answer for that. The truth was, I'd gotten so used to having Kane in my life that I'd started taking him for granted. I'd focused on what he wasn't, rather than appreciating what he was. I messed up, I admitted, perhaps the first time I'd said it out loud without qualifications. Then came the day that broke me completely. I was grabbing coffee at our old favorite place when I spotted Kane with another woman. She was pretty in that effortless way, with dark curly hair and an easy smile. As I watched, Kane laughed at something she said, then reached out and took her hand. He gave me a small nod when he saw me. I managed to return it before practically running out the door. Outside, I leaned against the building, trying to catch my breath. Kane had moved on. Already. While I was still sleeping with his old t-shirt and crying over our photos, he was dating someone new. Someone who probably adored him without reservation. Someone who would never make him feel like a consolation prize. 6 months after our breakup, I hit a new low. I'd been let go from my job due to company downsizing. My savings were dwindling fast. Dating had been a series of disasters. Turns out those exciting types I used to go for weren't any more appealing now than they had been before Kane. I was scrolling through social media when I saw photos from a dinner party. There was Kane, arm around the same dark-haired woman. They looked happy. The caption mentioned celebrating Kane and Olivia's new place, which meant they had moved in together already. What hurt the most wasn't that Kane had found someone new. It was that he seemed genuinely happier with her than he had been with me in our final months. His smile reached his eyes in a way it hadn't around me for longer than I cared to admit. In a moment of weakness, I messaged him. "Hey, saw the pictures of you and Olivia. Looks like you're doing well. I'm happy for you. Thanks, Natasha. I hope you're doing okay too." His politeness hurt more than anger would have. Actually, not really. Lost my job last month, about to lose my apartment. Missing you. The usual. Kane's reply took longer this time. "I'm sorry to hear that. Job market is tough right now. I hope things turn around for you soon." He had completely ignored the missing you part. Of course he had. "Thanks," I wrote back, embarrassed. "Sorry to dump that on you. Ignore me." "It's okay," he replied. "No hard feelings. Take care of yourself, Natasha." That was it. No offer to talk more, no suggestion of meeting up, just a polite brush off. Lisa reached out unexpectedly a few months later. We met for coffee, and after some awkward small talk, she got to the point. "I thought you should hear this from a friend rather than seeing it online," she said carefully. "Kane and Olivia are engaged." I sat there, coffee forgotten, as she filled in the details. The proposal had happened during a weekend trip to the coast, to our spot, the place Kane and I had always talked about returning to someday. "They just seemed so right together," Lisa added, then winced, realizing how that sounded. And the worst part was, I did get it. Olivia seemed perfect for Kane in all the ways I hadn't been. She appreciated him. She chose him first, not as a safe backup option. I ran into them once, about a year after our breakup. I was at the grocery store, mindlessly filling my basket with sad single-person portions, when I turned the corner and there they were, shopping together, checking items off a shared list. "Natasha," Kane said, nodding politely. "How are you?" "Good," I lied, suddenly painfully aware of my appearance. Unwashed hair, no makeup, wearing the same ratty sweater I'd had on for 3 days. "Really good. You?" "We're great," Kane said, his arm automatically going around Olivia's shoulders. "Just moved into our new house last month." "That's wonderful," I managed. "Congratulations on the engagement, by the way." "Thank you," Olivia said, her voice surprisingly kind. She held up her left hand, showing a simple but beautiful ring. Not the one I had found in Kane's drawer. This one was clearly chosen for her. "Well, we should get going. It was good to see you, Natasha." "You too," I said, the words catching in my throat. "Both of you." I watched them walk away, heads bent together, the picture of a happy couple. As they turned the corner, I heard Olivia laugh again. A bright, carefree sound. The sound of someone who was exactly where she wanted to be, with exactly who she wanted to be with. The ultimate irony of my life became clear in that moment. I had settled for Kane because I thought he was the safe choice, the practical option. I'd been afraid of missing out on something more exciting, more passionate. But in doing so, I'd missed out on something real and lasting. Kane, meanwhile, had refused to settle. He'd refused to stay with someone who didn't fully want him, who saw him as less than her first choice. And because of that courage, the courage to walk away from something that wasn't right, he had found exactly what he deserved. Someone who chose him first. Someone who saw his worth without hesitation. He didn't settle, and now he was happy. Truly happy. In a way we probably never would have been if we'd stayed together. I had settled, and now I was alone. That night, after seeing them at the grocery store, I deleted all my dating apps. I stopped looking for the next exciting guy who would inevitably disappoint me. I started therapy, trying to understand why I had always chased the wrong things, always valued the wrong qualities in a partner. Kane had moved on to better things because he knew his worth. Maybe someday I would learn mine too. But for now, I lived with the knowledge that I had been given something precious. Something real, and I had called it settling. The greatest loss of my life came not from what someone took from me, but from what I failed to see in front of me all along.